For nearly 2,000 years, this ancient Jewish community in Ethiopia has drawn its sustenance from the land, here in the remote Gondar region. Since the early 1980s, when permission was received from the Ethiopian government to provide aid, the American Jewish Joint Distribution Committee has administered non-sectarian programs both for relief and for self-help. Medical and educational assistance, electrification, water projects, and assistance with agriculture. Like JDC programs in other parts of the world, the design was to encourage self-sufficiency. Recently, life for Jews in Ethiopia and for the JDC programs there changed dramatically. 17 years after ties were severed, Israel and Ethiopia re-established diplomatic relations, and an Israeli embassy was established. Hearing this news, the Jewish population picked up virtually en masse and moved from their rural villages toward the capital. The motivation to join family members and friends who had already emigrated to Israel was very powerful. With the door to Israel suddenly much closer to being open, they did not hesitate. At least 20,000 Jews have appeared in Addis Ababa in just a few months, most having traveled here from the Gondar region in the north. The journey left many frail and weak. The onset of the rainy season made them even more vulnerable to sickness. The sudden influx created a crisis in Addis, overwhelming local resources. With sanitary conditions poor, some did not survive. Its mission changed. JDC moved quickly to provide emergency medical assistance in a hastily constructed compound. Medical outreach workers are trained to search for the ill and persuade them to come for help. 5 doctors and 7 nurses are treating over 200 people a day. These emergency efforts are making a difference. They have reduced deaths among Jews stranded in Addis Ababa significantly, especially among the children. With the help of funds raised by the United Jewish Appeal, JDC is doing everything possible to ease their hardship. Care begins as soon as they are received at the JDC compound in Addis Ababa. They get cash assistance to buy food and to meet housing costs. Increased demand makes even primitive accommodations very expensive. In addition to clothing, JDC also provides blankets. In this impoverished country, each is worth more than a month's wages for the typical resident. After initial processing, each family head is given an appointment once a month to receive further allotments. Between 300 and 400 are seen each day. The children need special attention. Some are malnourished. Their mothers are taught to make special high-protein, high-calorie foods so they can grow strong. The JDC tradition of creating self-sufficiency continues as even the sacks of emergency food shipments become raw materials for these imaginative mattress makers. They keep their skills and their ambitions alive as they improve the living conditions. But these facilities are temporary. Especially for the children, the focus shifts to Israel. In this community cultural center, they are preparing for life in their new home with all their energy and hope. With Israeli embassy officials completing processing for the flight to Israel, reunification with their families cannot happen soon enough. In their finest white robes, they are about to make the journey of a lifetime. A flight of a few hours spanning nearly 2,000 years of history. Their eyes are set on Israel, but their hearts, like the hearts of those who have gone before, are torn. No new music can drown out the memory of voices and images of family members left behind. He is saying, do not forget us. There is renewed hope the remaining Jews will be allowed to leave soon. JDC will provide care until that happens, until the last Ethiopian Jew is repatriated. We will not forget.
This is a special report to the UJA Prime Minister's Council.
Thousands of Ethiopian Jews are flown to Israel. This is the CBS Evening News. Bob Schieffer reporting. Good evening. The Ethiopian capital of Addis Ababa has been in chaos since Tuesday when the country's Marxist dictator fled, and tonight rebel forces are closing in. It seems only a matter of time now until the current regime collapses. What comes next, no one can say, but with violence possible, thousands are fleeing, and no part of the exodus is more dramatic than that of the Ethiopian Jews.
And now the Jews of Ethiopia. They are called the Falasha. They declare themselves one of the 10 lost tribes of Israel. And tonight, Israel is engaged in a desperate operation to bring them home.
The first press reports confirmed the joyous news. More than 14,000 Ethiopian Jews are safely airlifted to Israel. Virtually the entire remaining Jewish population is rescued. Behind the headlines is a story of a Jewish community more than 2,000 years old, oppressed as strangers in their own country, but holding firm to the dream of one day reaching the Jewish homeland. It is as well the continuing story of the Jewish people, holding firm to its overriding commitment to save and nurture Jewish lives. That commitment was called upon when it became clear that the Ethiopian Jewish community's dream was threatened, that their very existence was in mortal danger. It was clear that time had run out.
Wanted to come to the Holy Land with a robe, and he had pinned on a coat, and the look in his face was just absolutely beyond. He was home. For him, he was home. Very moving.
In Addis Ababa and in Israel, months of intense planning was quickly put into action. All of the resources of the Israeli government and the Jewish agency were mobilized to bring the Ethiopian Jews to Israel and prepare for their absorption.
I cried. It's months of work and prayers, and comes about. Very exciting.
At the Israeli embassy compound in Addis, thousands who had earlier been registered and issued identification papers were organized into smaller groups, given numbers to help keep family units together, and readied for their flight. As each plane took off on the 1,800-mile journey to freedom, another was filled. 45 sorties in all, 2 to 3 planes each hour. Within 24 hours, the rescue was completed, and another chapter in the lives of Ethiopian Jewry and of Israel itself began. At Ben Gurion Airport, they arrived to a warm welcome, greeted with open arms and open hearts. Government officials, Jewish agency staff, volunteers, Israeli soldiers, medical personnel, all eager to make the newcomers feel at home. Also on hand to welcome the new arrivals were members of a UJA Federation eyewitness mission, led by National Vice Chairman Joel Tauber of Detroit.
This is another miracle occurring in Israel. It is why Israel was created, to bring home the Jews from throughout the world.
This was my dream.
I'm very excited. Yesterday and today, all the time I'm crying.
It's a girl.
Healthy?
Yeah.
When was it born?
An hour ago.
Among the new Israelis were 7 infants, including 1 set of twins, born en route to Israel and arriving as sabras. Among them also families split apart, hopeful of finding loved ones who preceded them, the elderly, some frail and exhausted from the journey, others able to take their first steps with assurance and pride. As Israel has done with each wave of arriving immigrants, the priority for these new Olim is now resettlement and absorption, a process complicated by cultures thousands of years apart. The process began quickly. Ethiopians who had emigrated earlier provided the first helping hand, answered the first questions, befriended the young, and aided the elderly. In dozens of absorption centers throughout the country, including Jerusalem hotels, the process continued. Families separated in transit and those parted for years, some since Operation Moses, were happily and emotionally reunited.
For many of the newcomers, reaching Israel meant joyous reunions with family members they hadn't seen for as long as 8 years. These were among the most exciting moments Jerusalem Online captured while covering Operation Solomon. From the time he arrived in Israel 5.5 years ago, Avram Zorro never stopped praying and waiting for his older brother, still trapped in Ethiopia. The Zorro family, 18 brothers and sisters in all, had been ripped apart, split between two countries. More than anything, he says, I'm looking for my brother Azano. He was like a father to me. Since 1985, Zorro has been living in Ashdod, a port city in southern Israel, home to many new immigrants, working as a painter in a metalworking plant. They told me to turn on the television, he says, even though it was the Sabbath. So I did, and I saw many people, many Jews. I couldn't believe my eyes. Thank God for this good luck. Abram's wife, Bertsako, thought she was dreaming. They are coming, she says. We're very happy. This is amazing. A dream come true. I still can't believe it. The Zorros, their 5 daughters, and their infant son Israel rushed to the President Hotel in Jerusalem in search of Azano. Avram combs the lists of new arrivals, but in vain. Meanwhile, he witnesses the joyous reunions of other Ethiopian families. The Zorros try their luck at another Jerusalem hotel, but for Avram, the search continues. A glimmer of hope. He discovers a cousin just off the plane from Ethiopia. Yes, he says, he has seen Azano. A moment later, Avram Zorro spots a familiar face. Azano has arrived, and so has his son. Another shattered Ethiopian family is whole again.
Meanwhile, in the streets of Jerusalem, Israelis were gathering with clothing and toys, anxious to show their new countrymen they were indeed one.
I witnessed Israeli